Sir.
All right. Hello, I'm Miguel Strickland, and this is my IL 691 task force meeting for Goldsmith Shiffman Elementary School. And so my task force is first grade representative Aaron Bowman, second grade representative Susan Moore, third grade representative Brittany Howard, and fifth grade representative Susan Mumper. And so the issue at Goldsmith Shiffman is from 2018 to 2021, we've had 806 Bloom referrals, but 227 have been positive, with 222 positive Blooms coming in the 2021 school year. And so we write gold standards every day, which is a PBIS thing at Goldsmith Shiffman. And so what we want to do is correlate our positive Blooms with the amount of gold standards that go out every day. So that way we can increase the positive Blooms and it be more consistent. And so essentially, you know, I need you all to kind of chime in and help me, you know, let's try to figure out what we can do to make it less stress on you, but to make sure that we can correlate those positive Bloom referrals with the amount of gold standards that go out every day.
Personally, my biggest issue, I don't know that we can fix. Bloom itself is not user friendly. And it's not quick to just put in a positive referral. Right. And our gold standards, when we fill out those papers, that's awesome, man. The kids love getting them, and it's a quick thing that we can do for them. The best way that I can think of is, you know, setting aside a day or a time each week. Do they have to be entered the same day that we give them the gold standard?
They do not. No, they can be entered like at some point that same week. So if you wanted to sit down on a Friday or a Tuesday or during the planning period, even though I know those are very short, but if you wanted to sit and do it then you could do that. We're looking at ways to not inconvenience you and not make you try to sit down and, you know, put these all in at one time, but just something that we can do to correlate the two. Because the reason I think that there was such a discrepancy in the Bloom referrals to now is because district just started pushing. District just made a big push this past year for the positive Bloom referrals, which is why we had 5 from 2018 to 2020. And so in this year we had 222. So we're just looking at ways to kind of make it more convenient for you guys, something that is not a headache, but that the parents can kind of see too. Because yeah, they can see that piece of paper that the kids come home with. Look, I got a gold standard. But also if it's a Bloom referral, it would link to iNow and probably into Power Schools.
It would be more work for the office, but when the kids turn in a gold standard, they could enter it in to iNow or Bloom. I mean, that adds work to them, but it takes it off of us.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. My thought was kind of with Susan, not necessarily the office being in charge of that, but this past year, because of COVID, we didn't use the paper slip and we inputted it in an Excel spreadsheet. I don't know if there's a way to, you know, for Bloom to somehow link that spreadsheet and just pull that over from there. I don't know if there's a way to just simplify the process.
I think that the office doesn't have access the same to Bloom. And so just hearing you guys say that, it could easily be done if the teachers would enter it maybe in an Excel spreadsheet or something Google that we could all share, then maybe admin could step up and go back in and try to add them in because we have access to everybody.
That would be awesome, but I'm going to throw a wrench in that, just a small wrench. I think the kids really like getting the papers and getting the gold standards. And I will say that me personally, I'm doing them on the fly. And so when I give them to them, I'm not necessarily going to stop and fill out the database.
Right.
And so that's still 2 things to do. So if we're going to still give them a paper and then type it into the database, do you see what I'm saying? That's still us doing 2 things.
And I understand. So like I said, we are researching, trying to come to a point that we are doing something that is not putting too much more of stress and strain on you. And so with that being said, so we'll go into incentives. So what we kind of discussed was what could we do to not reduce, I mean, it's still going to be work, but what can we do to make it beneficial for you guys individually and as a class? You know, like what would you work for? Would you work for a Starbucks card? Would it be more interesting to you to get a duty-free lunch? Like just stuff that even though you still put in a lot of time, you know, putting in the referrals, like what would you work for? Like in your class, like, you know, are we looking at pizza parties, popcorn parties? So we are meeting to trying to come to a consensus to do something that works for everybody and still push PBIS and correlate, you know, everything that we're supposed to do district-wide.
I feel like the kids would work harder for a popcorn party or a popsicle party or a pizza party, but then the problem still is we still have to put it into Bloom.
Right.
Like there's still no correlation in, okay, my class is working super hard, but if I don't take the time to put the information in, how do you know my class is working hard?
So, and here's the other thing about that. So I had two thoughts, and I agree with Brittany on this one. This is something, unfortunately, I think we're just going to have to suck up and do.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those things where we're just going to have to own it and figure out how to make it work in order to get those in for the kids and for the district. And, you know, I don't know that necessarily an incentive would be for me. You know, it's just something else that I'm just going to have to make a routine and a habit out of. That's what's going to have to happen for me. And then people are going to ask questions like on those days where an entire class gets a gold standard, do
Right.
those go in? So do we put 25 in for that one?
See, it's been, I mean, we've been going back and forth about it. We are just looking at every angle, trying to figure out ways to increase it without adding too much more to your workload and everybody kind of benefiting. And like I said, still falling under that umbrella of PBIS, because, you know, district, they were requesting that we put, hey, we need more positive blooms. Let us see more. And, you know, we had a pretty decent ratio. Our negative blooms or our behavior blooms were like 99, because we don't have a lot at our school. But there were other schools who had 758 positive blooms and like 150 like behavior. And I'm like, okay, come on. And that's not saying it didn't happen. Everybody's data is different. But district put such a big push on it, and other schools are a lot smaller than us. You know, we have about 1,000 students to where other schools have 300 or 400 students. Elementary schools anyway have 300 or 400 students. So I think a lot of it is time, and you know, there are other schools who have more employees who are there, who have access, who are able to do things and help out. So we are trying to walk a line and do the things that we are being requested to do, and make sure we're doing it correctly and not fabricating any kind of data. But with that being said, trying to make sure that we take care of the people who are entering the referrals as well.
So my question is, with Bloom, with positives, is it our responsibility if our kids get a gold standard from specials? Are specials putting in their own positive behavior as well?
They get to see everybody too. So we'd have specials do theirs for your class too. It would just benefit your class. It would go in so you'd be able to see it. And it's like, okay, Miss Howard's class has a positive bloom, or, you know, 6 students in Miss Howard's class for ETA got positive blooms, and kind of tie it all in, and, you know, and that way work on that class incentive.
She does it, right? Not me.
Right. She would do it. Or
Okay.
I think it would help. A lot of the times I just forget, and maybe in our weekly email every day, just remind us to put them in. That always helped me. I always remembered, and then I went in and put them in for that week. I don't know if that's one way to help people remember.
Well, look, this gives us a good start. I'm sure we'll meet again to discuss it a little bit more in depth. I appreciate you all for joining this meeting. Thanks, and we'll get back together very soon.